guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here, and today I'm going to talk about top 9 books I read in 2023. And the reason why that is because I properly got into reading this year and I have enjoyed it so much. Let's just get this out of the way. There is absolutely no reason why you should listen to me or pay heed to anything I'm saying, because I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a reader. I have a degree in law, so I don't know anything about English literature. But I will say that I tend to read books ranging across wide subjects, so you might find something that you like in here because my list is all over the place. I don't stick to a specific genre, so there's going to be some fiction, some non-fiction. I do like reading Indian authors because there's that sense of relatability as an Indian, and I enjoy reading about Indian culture and stories, but I have some European and American also. So we have these to get through. So let's get started. So the first book I finished reading this year was Che Guevara's biography. It's not an autobiography, it's written by Richard L. Harris. And hear me out. I live in Kerala, right? And I would see his face everywhere, and I kind of knew what he was about, and he's the face of communism, arguably. So Kerala is a communist state, so I really got interested in understanding how he became what he became so popular and why his face was everywhere. So I started my year off in non-fiction. So I'm not trying to start a political debate here at all, but I was really impressed. It talks about his early adolescence and adulthood and how he traveled across his home continent, which was South America, on his motorbike with a friend of his, just living on the road, learning about the people of the place where he comes from. First of all, I really like traveling, and in this book, they tell us that when he was traveling, when he was making these travels across these countries, he came across so many things that he was not aware of. Like, he got to understand the condition of the people there and how they were facing oppression. He felt like doing something for them because he was moved by the suffering, and I can completely understand. And it also talks about his campaigns, political campaigns, guerrilla warfare, and his death at the end. So it was really impactful, I'll tell you that. So history as a genre isn't at the top of my list or anything, but I do find it interesting and fascinating because I do believe that understanding where we come from, how the world has come to be what it is now, it's really fascinating to understand ourselves better, studying our past. I really enjoyed this book. It took me a while to finish it because it was a little heavy, especially towards the end, but I do recommend it if you feel like learning about where communism comes from, and or just a very important aspect of communism. That was the first book I read this year. It's just straight very non-fiction and reality, and yeah, that was good though. The next book I read that I really enjoyed is called The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida. This won the Booker Prize last year, which is 2022. It's by Shehan Karunatilak. I hope I am pronouncing it right. I'm really sorry if I'm not. So again, this is kind of historical fiction. The background is of the politics of Sri Lanka. So I'm not sure how many spoilers I can give or whether I should give any at all. But it's about this photographer from Colombo, and something happens to him in the first chapter. It goes on from there. It touches upon a lot of themes, a lot of real world issues about war and politics and how it affects the lives of its citizens and what really happens behind the scenes. I mean, I'm not sure if it's entirely speculative in this book, but it does paint a picture of how it could look like. The story is really gripping. It touches upon themes of death, afterlife, so it's an amalgamation of a lot of things. So it is a little hard to keep up because there's just so much going on. So the author has really written well. First of all, he does a great job of describing anything that he's trying to, whether it's a relationship, an emotion, death, and what could happen after it, and just, meshing it with a commentary or a political commentary, if you will, on Sri Lanka. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was quite fast paced, I would say. It wasn't slow. There was a lot of build up, and I would say the ending was satisfying as well, so it's definitely worth it. I will say it's also of the fantasy genre, so you will not be bored, definitely. I think the Booker Prize was really well deserved because I really enjoyed his writing style. So go for this book if you want some adventure, politics, love, um, risks meshed together really well, and death. Okay, moving on. So I got this book off of Amazon. It was on sale, so I got it for like 300 bucks. It's a hardcover, and it has two of Oscar Wilde's stories, the novel The Picture of Dorian Gray. So that is in here, and the second story is a play that he wrote, which is called The Importance of Being Earnest. So the play is like mild comedy, a light read, but The Picture of Dorian Gray was, I think, one of my favorite stories of all time. It does a really good job of taking you to the time it was based in, which was, if I'm not wrong, 1800s London. I'm pretty sure it was the late 1800s. It is again a satire or a commentary on society. Vanity, I would say, was a really big theme. The inevitability of aging, of dying, of attachment to your ego, to your appearance, and to your youth. And also, the story is really gripping as well. Like, I could place it in sort of a thriller towards the end. I mean, it's not a thriller novel, it's just the second half, especially, was thrilling because there were some events unfolding that were really interesting. I swear I need to watch like 1,000 more book review videos because I'm just like, how do I say anything without not giving anything away? It's a skill definitely that I need to learn. I just love the appearance of this book. On the back it says, "What are you? To define is to limit." So this is one of the quotes from The Picture of Dorian Gray. So there's a lot of philosophical discourse, and even his language is very reflective of people, what their inside lives look like, and how their inside lives are shaped, and how that shapes their outer life as well. So the next book that I read is called The Artist of Disappearance, and it's by Anita Desai. She's quite a prolific Indian author. So this book is a compilation of 3 short stories. I would classify this as light reading or lighter reading than my previous recommendations. On the cover there's a review that says "Bewitchingly Beautiful" by The Times. I think I would definitely say that for some of the elements of this book. She does a really good job of painting this fantastical atmosphere depending on the story, and she does incorporate a lot of nature as well, describing a scenery. I think 2 of these stories are based in the mountains, so that was definitely a bonus for me because I like nature settings a lot in books. The first story is called The Museum of Final Journeys, and I will say that that story was probably my least favorite out of the three, only because the ending, in my opinion, was a bit abrupt and jarring. It's about this junior civil service officer who has just been posted in a remote mountain town, and what happens when he meets a struggling local there. But it's still a good read because her language is really enjoyable and there are elements of mystery, and of course this story is based in the mountain. It does evoke a sense of nostalgia. That's all I'll say. And it's a good read, but I liked the other two more. The second one is called Translator Translated. This probably was my favorite one because it's about this woman who loves this author from Orissa, if I'm not wrong. That author isn't as famous outside Orissa because she's more of a regional author. It talks about this girl's life, how she grows up into a disillusioned woman because she's doing a teaching job but she feels like a creative at heart. She's interested in writing. I felt a connection to this story because I enjoy writing and I would want to be a writer eventually somehow. It touches upon the themes of loneliness, about being unmarried in your 30s, following your dreams, not being too obsessed with results. All of these themes are what she touches upon broadly in this story, and I think I found a lot of resonance in this story, and I think I finished this one the fastest out of the three. I think this is a cautionary tale of being responsible with your emotions and perspectives. I'll just say this much. Okay, so this one is called The Sea, and it's by Iris Murdoch. This is one of my favorite books of all time. This is also a winner of the Booker Prize. I think it was in the year 1975. Again, I can absolutely see why she won the award. I personally was enamored by her writing style. Let me just read one line from the summary on the back. The sea, turbulent and leaden, transparent and opaque, magician and mother. So she has really unique ways of describing everything. Now, this book is based near the beach. The main, I wouldn't say protagonist, he's kind of like an anti-hero. His name is Charles Araby, and he's a retired theatre performer who just bought a house by the sea and has his own private beach and his own house. He's in his 50s, he's single. He is one of the most compelling characters I've ever read. He's not that pleasant, he's not that likable. He seems sort of like a narcissist, but he has a few redeeming qualities. But because we are in his psyche, you can see that she has made a lot of effort for us to understand him and even sympathize with him at some points, even though at some points I just wanted to like shake him and be like, get over yourself. So this also has a bit of romance in it, and it's about how one can be really blinded in love and not see what's actually there. This is also a cautionary tale in a lot of ways. Oh, and also vanity. I think a lot of English authors, or at least what I have noticed, is that they have a sense of the hedonism that exists. They do question it but also indulge in it. So I think both of the characters in Oscar Wilde's novel and Iris Murdoch's novel are that they are vain. They are pretty much narcissists, in my opinion. I could be wrong, not diagnosing them, but that is how I felt. I love this book. I would definitely want to read it again. So I really recommend, if you like a bit of a romantic writing style, just a lot of deep dives into the human psyche when it's in love or it's in isolation, and It talks about materialism. So it does a lot and it does it all really well. Alright, moving on. I don't know if this counts. I definitely don't think it does because the next book is an encyclopedia of signs and symbols. This is, first of all, one of the most beautiful books I possess, and my dad gifted this to me, so I really cherish it. I haven't finished it because it's really thick, but it has some of the coolest pictures and information that I could ever come across. Look at that. So it talks about symbols from all over the world and across all topics that you could possibly think of. It's just so pretty, it's beautiful. It has the cosmos, which includes things like the sun, the moon, the earth, natural world, which has cats, mammals, birds, myths and religions, society and culture, and symbol systems like numbers, alphabets, etc. So it includes all the symbols that have existed pertaining to that particular topic or that particular subtopic, love and marriage. So it has things that you didn't even know were connected, and you can see how some key themes have been recurrent in human lives since forever. How we interact with the world, how we make sense of it by associating an image or shapes to a particular belief system or even just natural elements. And it has an introduction for all of these, which is written so well. The language is also really great. For mountains, it says, as near to heaven as you can get on earth, mountains are revered, sometimes feared, and regarded as sacred by the world's religions. They are often associated with gods, spirits, and prophets. I just love stuff like this. I just randomly open this book to a random page in the mornings and learn about something new every day. So this has been really fun to have. Okay, there are 2 non-fictions and 1 fiction book left. I will go with the non-fiction that I read, which is called Autobiography of a Yogi. I'm sure some of you guys must have heard about this book because it is really popular among the spiritual community. I think this book is quite prevalent in Western spirituality as well, because the author, Paramahansa Yogananda ji, he traveled to America, and for the last 20-30 years of his life he was there only. He set up a spiritual center for people. Let me tell you, this took me a long time to finish. The language is difficult. For me, it was really difficult because the words are really fancy and not words that I at least use in my everyday life, and a lot of words that I had never heard ever before in my life. So it took me a while, and the concepts were also complex, but he has done a great job of incorporating some of the more relatable aspect of life, like emotions, emotional attachments, and wanting to run away from societal constraints, wanting to take a path that is different than the one your parents or society has carved for you. It talks about how, sorry, there's a train passing by. Can you see that train? The bonus of a mountainous atmosphere is also here in this book because Paramahansa Yogananda ji wanted to run away from home, run away from his studies, and find some enlightenment. He wanted to do what a lot of spiritual gurus do, meditate in the mountains and in the solitude find the clarity to find answers. He was from West Bengal. I think it's a very humanistic experience of being a spiritual leader, and I felt really connected to Paramahansa Yogananda ji. It also has a lot of mystical elements. It also talks about what happens after death, what really happens when you become spiritually awakened or enlightened. And there's a lot of miraculous or magical events that Paramahansa Yogananda ji describes, what he witnessed, what he saw, and what he experienced. So it's really up to you to believe it or not. I do. Let's finish off the fiction first. I read the very age-old classic Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I first heard of this book from the show Friends. I just heard the name, and there's a couple of lines in which one of the characters, Phoebe, she describes the book, so it sounded intriguing. I was in this mood of wanting to read a romantic story, so I do enjoy love stories. So this was a really intense love story. This is an old and a popular book, so a lot of you might have read it. I was really impressed by the fact that this book is assigned in many of the Western schools. I'm not sure if in any of the Indian schools it is, but because reading this in school would be difficult, and also it would be a lot to take. I mean, I'm 25 and I was really moved by this book, and both in good and bad ways. And by bad ways, I don't mean that this book was bad, but it was just a very melancholic sort of atmosphere. It just stirred up my emotions quite a lot, is what I would say. But all that said, I really enjoyed this book because I am a sucker for love stories. First of all, this book has a very extreme depiction of a kind of love which is obsessive and all encompassing, that it transcends life and death. You know what I did? Once I was done with this book, I didn't know anybody who had read it, and I really wanted to discuss it with somebody, so I opened ChatGPT to do that. I was feeling so much, I just wanted to just put it out there to somebody thing, and I kept asking ChatGPT, why do you think that human beings have a tendency to depict love as this really obsessive thing? Because I have come across so many stories, as you might have as well, like Romeo and Juliet, or even in Hindi cinema there are so many movies that are based on obsessive lovers. Because love is generally a huge part of a person's life, I do think we have love in all of our lives in some capacity, and oftentimes romantic love can overpower all other kinds of love, or it just might feel that way because you are just so invested in one person. And these kind of books, I think, are depicting an idea of a soulmate, or just one person that you fall in love with and they're your forever love, and even nobody, not even death, can take that away from you. I think that is a powerful thing to describe or experience, and all of us somewhere would like to experience that. Maybe not necessarily the way that it has been described in this book. I think we all crave that feeling of knowing or believing that at least one person will have your back no matter what. And this is a very rudimentary way of putting what happens in this book. There is a lot of tragedy. It's a drama. There are some serious issues that it touches upon, like abuse or losing your love, the cruelties of the world, being adopted, so many things, and having different colored skin tone. So it had a lot of really real elements, but the atmosphere is very fantastical. Again, it's again the mountains. I think in Friends, Phoebe also says this, that the gloomy atmosphere of the place where the story is taking place mirrors the wildness of Heathcliff, who is the anti-hero again in this story, his character. I have really enjoyed reading anti-hero tropes because it's not straightforward, and you get to understand how many layers a person can have, and that there's so much grey that exists in the world. Those are my top fictional reads of the year, and the final book that I'm going to talk about is this book. It's called Desperately Seeking Shahrukh, India's Lonely Young Women and the Search for Intimacy and Independence. If you don't know him, he is a Bollywood actor. Shah Rukh Khan is his name. If you saw the Jawan review, one of his movies that I did, you know that I have a special place for him in my heart, and this was actually a birthday gift from my roommate. I loved this book. It isn't a biography about Shah Rukh Khan, it's a biography of all the women in India that relate to him or love him and cherish him. So it has stories about women from across the economic spectrum, and it starts with, I think, upper middle class, lower middle class, urban, rural settings, below poverty line, and all of the women talked about in this book are working women, but obviously their conditions of working are very different. One of the main things that I felt while reading this book was gratitude, because I was so aware of my privilege when I read some of the stories in here about how the condition of women in this country specifically is far from okay. The author is actually from the research field, and she did a lot of field work across the country and spoke to so many women. The author is, of course, a Shah Rukh Khan fan, and so to take primary data, she would talk to all of these women, and to make the conversations lighter, she would always ask them about their favorite actor or film, if any, and she has included the stories of some of the women who cited Shah Rukh as their favorite actor. It has such interesting stories. I can understand and relate to some of the middle class associations of women with Shah Rukh Khan, and I can empathize with some connections that some of the women that aren't as privileged as me feel with Shah Rukh. It just really shows how vast his reach has been in this country. It touches upon everything you could want from a fan's account of their idol, or the icon of their idol, as the author continuously suggests, how the person is very different from the icon that we all have in our heads. It has so many references to his movies, his songs, which is really enjoyable as a fan, and also the experience of being a fangirl was so universal. I had no idea, because I have always been a fangirl of various things. Right now it's Shah Rukh Khan, but I have come from a long history of being a fangirl. So the experience of it is described so beautifully, and it was such a nice feeling to relate to all these women described in the book on this fact that we all enjoy Shah Rukh and his movies, his apparent empathy towards women. It also made me really upset, to be honest, because some of the accounts of women's lives here were very upsetting, and I even found myself being angry and having some rage at some point. But I think a good book does exactly that. It makes you feel a range of emotions. I was smiling, I was teary-eyed, I was raging throughout this book. It was just a great tribute to Shah Rukh also. That was the final book, guys. I just want to end this video on a note of gratitude. Very recently I was thinking about how thankful I am for education and for the ability to read these books and be exposed to such different concepts and ideas from all over the world. Literary freedom is a freedom that I have only appreciated recently. These books have really shaped me this year. They've helped me, and they have given me something to do that doesn't involve looking at a screen, which I really appreciate. I'm just really grateful to my parents and to all my teachers and you guys for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and this was my first proper sit down video where I do nothing else. I really enjoyed it, and I think it'll be a little easier to edit, so I'm looking forward to that. Let me know if you guys have read any of the books that I recommended, and please let me know what you thought about it. Also, if you have any recommendations, please leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Bye.